So we're going to look at how to very easily and quickly take a texture or several texture sets from Substance Painter and import them into Unreal Engine and have everything look correct. I've opened up the default sample here of the material ball, and this will work perfectly for our purposes, just to showcase the workflow. So the only thing you need to do with Substance Painter is go to File, Export, Textures, choose the output template to be Unreal Engine 4, Packed, choose the path, of course. I have my path set up here. No, I don't. Not like that, I don't. I have my path set up here. Substance Painter to UE4 is the name of this one. I'm just going to export it into a new folder. I'll call Textures. A new folder. I'll call Textures. And that's all we need to do. Let's break down though, before we leave Substance Painter, what that did. If we check the Unreal Engine 4 Packed, you can see it has four maps. A base color. That's just a standard albedo, base color, whatever you want to call that kind of texture. A occlusion, roughness, metallic map, and what this is three types of textures packed into one image. The ambient occlusion is in the R channel, the roughness is in the G channel, and the metallic is in the B channel. We'll come back to this later. You have a normal map, filling all RGB channels in the DirectX format, as correct for Unreal Engine, and an emissive map if you have one on your model. Pretty standard. So, with all that out of the way, let's get into Unreal Engine and import these textures and set up a material. So, now I'm in the most bog standard Unreal Engine scene you can imagine. There's nothing in it. This is just as a project is created. You can see I haven't even saved yet. So all I'm going to do is drag in the FBX file here for my model. I don't want to create any materials, no, I want to untick import textures. We'll do that ourselves. I'll get an error here, but it's not important. Now, go to the textures folder, select these three, and just drag them in. These are three textures. So, next, we just need to create a master material, which we will instance. So, I'm just going to right click, add a material, and I'm going to call this simple PBR _M. Simple PBR being a fairly accurate description of what it is, and the _M being the standard suffix for materials. Now, what I'm going to see here is a graph. I have a large number of outputs on the right here. I'll need to add some nodes in order to add in these textures. So I'm going to right click and search texture sample, and we're going to want three of these. So after you right click and search for text sample, just Control C, Control V, standard paste, so you've got three. Now we need these texture samples to understand that they are the right kind of maps. So we're going to click the first one, and we're going to make sure it's a color map. It is. But it can't compile this material properly unless we have a texture in it. So, after making sure from the view options here, which is a part of your content browser, engine content is ticked, we can search for a color texture. Sorry, I'm British, not American, I typed it wrong. They want color. So you want the color checker texture of your base material, and you can plug it into your base color, and you can see here we have a texture, so it will compile, and it's registering as a sample type of color. Now, this one, we want to be a linear colour, so conveniently, this 127 grey, as part of the engine content, is a linear colour, and it's right at the top of the list, so it's perfect for something like this. Now, if you remember earlier, we discussed that this texture here will be three materials packed into one, the occlusion, the roughness, and the metallic, and it's in that order for RGB, so you plug the R, which is the occlusion, to your ambient occlusion, the G, which is your roughness, into your roughness, and then, no surprises, the metallic is your B channel. Now, you can also plug your normal map in now, and we're going to look for, you see there's an error here, this is because there's no missing input texture, so we're just going to add one, and we can see this texture sample, as we've added a 127 grey, is now linear colour, which is exactly how we need this to sample, because that's how we'll be sampling our 3-in-1 occlusion, roughness, metallic map. And we want this one down here to sample a normal, and Unreal Engine has a texture called flat normal, we can just use that. Changes the sampler type to normal automatically, and the error compiling goes away. That's nearly everything we need to do here, but in order to properly instance this material, we need to turn these from texture samples into parameters. But that's as simple as a few clicks and a little bit of typing. So let's just right click on nodes individually and click convert to parameter. They're going to want a name, so let's name them descriptively what they are. This is the base color map. This here will be the occlusion, roughness, metallic map, and I like to call these OR maps because it's a lot shorter. And it still contains that important information, occlusion, roughness, metallic, and what order they go in. And finally, this is everyone's favourite, the normal map. Surely familiar to everyone. Now, once we've done that, we can just save this, and that is our simple PBR master material complete. The next thing we need to do is ensure that these textures have been bought in the correct format, so just double click to open it up. Now, your base colour needs to have sRGB ticked, and the compression needs to be default. In this case, everything's correct. We can just save it down and close it. The normal map needs to be unticked sRGB, and it needs to be set as compression settings of normal map. This will match what we were ensured that the compression settings were when we were inside the material editor prior to this. And finally, the ORM map, or occlusion roughness metallic, needs to have sRGB unticked, as it often comes in without unticking this, and if you do not untick that, you will get extremely erroneous results with lots of shiny parts and things, and the compression needs to be default. This will turn that into a linear colour map. Now, all that's done, we can simply instance this material by right-clicking it in the content browser and clicking Create Material Instance. This is going to be the preview sphere, that's descriptive of what the material is for, and then _mi, as it is a material instance. Now we can double-click on this material instance, and we'll see this is the material created in the material editor, but instead of our complex sort of web of graph options we usually have, we simply have 3 options here that we can tick on to enable these texture map choices. And it's our base colour, we can drag in easily, just like that. Our normal map, which we can add in a similar fashion, and of course the ORM map from earlier, which we have exported from Substance Painter. There we go, everything's looking just about right. The last thing we're going to do now is just add our preview sphere into the scene. I'm going to scale up a little bit, the model is quite small, but if you're using a normal model set to correct scale, you shouldn't have any issues with this whatsoever. And then I'm going to double click on this static mesh here, and just drag in our material into there. Our material instance slots in perfectly. And there is our preview sphere in Unreal Engine. It's lit slightly differently to Substance Painter, so it doesn't look exactly the same, but that is the way to do it. So for every texture set your object's going to have, this of course only has one texture set, but for every texture set your object's will have, because I imagine you may be working with several, you need to create a new material instance and put those maps in, and then on your static meshes, you'll have several options for material slots here. And you can edit these static meshes just by double clicking them and fit in as many material instances as you like. That's all. I hope that was helpful. If it was, maybe follow the channel and stick around. Thank you very much.